Let me ask you something before we even get started. Think about the last time something genuinely surprised you in the best possible way. Maybe it was an unexpected check in the mail, a call from someone offering you exactly what you've been praying for, a deal that came through when you'd already given up on it, a moment where life just delivered. Now here's what I want you to sit with. What were you doing right before that happened? I'd be willing to bet you weren't grinding yourself into the ground. You weren't white-knuckling your way through the day. There's a real chance you were calm, hopeful, maybe even a little reckless with your faith. Because here's what nobody talks about when they talk about money, in abundance, in financial breakthroughs. The moments right before everything changes rarely look dramatic. They look quiet. They look like a Tuesday afternoon where you clicked on a random video and something inside you just shifted. That's what today is. I genuinely believe that. My name is Ben Harris, and I want to have a real conversation with you today. Not a lecture, not a pitch, a conversation. The kind you'd have with a friend who's been through it, come out the other side, and wants to sit across the table from you and just be honest. So stay with me, because by the time we reach the end of this, I think you're going to understand why you found this video today. And I mean that more literally than you might expect. I want to take you back to a specific season of my life. I was in my late 20s. On paper, things looked okay. I had a job, I had an apartment, I had a life that made sense from the outside. But on the inside, I was exhausted in a way I couldn't explain. Not tired from working hard, tired from worrying. There's a difference, and if you felt it, you know exactly what I mean. It's that low hum of anxiety that never quite turns off. The kind where you're at dinner with people you love, and part of your brain is quietly doing math in the background, calculating, stressing, wondering if this month is going to be the month things finally tip over. I remember sitting in my car in a parking garage. I can still picture the exact spot, third floor, near the elevator, and just not wanting to go inside. Not because I hated my job, but because I felt like no matter how much I did, the needle never moved. I was running on a treadmill and calling it progress. And I remember thinking, is this it? Is this just what life is for most people? You work, you worry, you sleep, you repeat? I didn't have language for what I was missing back then. I just knew something wasn't connecting. Like I was doing everything I was supposed to do and still somehow locked out of the room where the real stuff was happening. Does any of that sound familiar to you? Because I've talked to enough people now to know that feeling isn't rare. It might actually be one of the most common human experiences there is. That gap between where you are and where you feel like you're supposed to be. Between what you're doing and what you feel like you were made for. And the wild thing is, the solution I eventually found wasn't another strategy. It wasn't a better budget or a new income stream, though those things came later. It was something that happened on the inside first. A shift in how I was relating to money, to possibility, to myself. Here's a question I want you to genuinely think about, not just skim past. What do you actually believe about money? Not what you've been told to believe, not the inspirational quote version. What do you deep down, in the quiet moments, actually believe about whether financial abundance is available to you specifically? Because most of us, and I include myself in this completely, grew up absorbing messages about money that we never consciously chose. From our families, from our communities, from watching how the adults around us talked about bills, about debt, about rich people, about what was and wasn't possible for people like us. And those messages become the water we swim in. We don't notice them because they're everywhere, but they shape everything. What opportunities we pursue, what risks we take, what we think we deserve, how quickly we talk ourselves out of things before they even have a chance to grow. I had a friend once, one of the smartest, most hardworking people I've ever known. And every time something good was about to happen for him financially, he'd find a way to sabotage it. Not on purpose. He wasn't doing it consciously, but it was like clockwork. A deal would be close to closing and he'd suddenly get difficult in negotiations. A raise was coming and he'd do something to create friction with his boss right before the review. A business idea would start gaining momentum, and he'd pull back exactly when he should have leaned in. It took years before he connected the dots. His father had always said, kind of jokingly, kind of not, that people like them weren't meant to have too much, that wanting more was greedy, that comfort was enough, and ambition was dangerous. He'd internalized that so deeply, it had become his operating system, and his life was running that program on autopilot. What program is running in the background of yours? This is why I take seriously the idea of spoken declarations, of prayer, of intentional out loud statements about what you believe and what you're claiming for your life. Because there is something genuinely powerful about the act of using your voice to override the old recording. Neuroscience backs this up, by the way. When you repeatedly affirm something, when you state it with emotion and intention, you're not just doing something spiritual, you're literally creating new neural pathways. You're physically rewriting the way your brain filters and processes the world around it. So when people hear about prayers for abundance or declarations of financial breakthrough and dismiss it as wishful thinking, I get it. I used to do the same thing. But I've seen too much in my own life and in the lives of people I know personally to write it off anymore. I want to share something with you now, and I want you to approach it with an open heart, whatever that looks like for you. This isn't about religion or denomination or whether you consider yourself spiritual. It's about the universal human practice of speaking intention into existence, of aligning your inner world with what you want your outer world to become. Every major tradition on earth, across cultures, across centuries, has some version of this practice. The words change, the rituals change, but the core of it is always the same. You get quiet, you get honest, and you speak aloud what you're trusting to be true, even before you can see it. So let's do this together, right now, wherever you are. If you want to, close your eyes for a moment after you read or hear each section. Let it land, don't rush it. Heavenly Father, eternal source of all things good, I come to you right now not with a perfect record, but with a willing heart. I acknowledge that you are the keeper of every good thing, every opportunity that exists, every door that hasn't opened yet, every connection I haven't made, every idea I haven't had, every resource I haven't accessed. You hold all of it. And today I'm choosing to stop trying to figure it all out on my own. I release the anxiety of not knowing how. I release the exhaustion of white-knuckling my way through. I release the belief that I have to earn your goodness through suffering. I ask you now to open my eyes to what's already around me, the opportunities I've been too stressed to notice, the people in my life who want to help, but I've been too proud to let them, the ideas you've already placed in me that I haven't trusted enough to act on. I ask you to break every internal chain that has kept me playing small, every voice that says I don't deserve more, every old wound that made me afraid to want things, every pattern I inherited that doesn't belong to me anymore. I declare today that my financial story is being rewritten, not because I figured out the perfect plan, but because I'm finally willing to be led. Let wisdom open my eyes to the chances I would have missed yesterday. Let favor bring the right people across my path at the right time. Let healing come to every place in me that associated money with shame or ambition with selfishness. Let freedom come, real freedom, from the cycle of barely enough. Let prosperity arrive not as a reward for perfection, but as a natural result of alignment. Let victory be the theme of this next chapter of my life. I thank you for what's already in motion, even though I can't see it yet. I thank you for the meeting that's being set up, the conversation that's coming, the idea that's going to arrive, the resource that's already on its way. I thank you for the version of me that's about to show up, bolder, clearer, more open, more ready. And I thank you that from this moment forward, I am a person who lives in overflow, not just enough for myself, but enough to change the lives of the people around me. Amen. Take a breath. How did that feel? Even if it felt strange or unfamiliar, something in you brought you to this video today. Something in you kept watching. That's not nothing. I want to get practical with you for a minute because I think one of the mistakes people make with faith and abundance is treating it like a vending machine. You put in the prayer, you get out the money. And when it doesn't work like that, they write the whole thing off. But here's how I've actually seen this work in real life. When you shift what you believe about yourself and about what's available to you, you start making different micro decisions throughout your day. And those micro decisions compound. Let me give you an example. Two people walk into the same networking event. One of them is carrying the belief that opportunity is scarce, that they probably won't meet anyone useful, and that successful people don't really help strangers. The other person walks in believing that the room is full of potential, that one conversation could change everything, and that people genuinely want to connect. Those two people will have completely different nights, not because the room was different, because their filters were different. The first person will hang near the edges, have surface conversations, and go home confirming what they already believed. The second person will go deep, follow up, and likely get a call the following week that leads somewhere real. Which one sounds more like you right now? And more importantly, which one do you want to be? Because that's the actual work. Not just saying the words, but letting the words do what they're designed to do. Rewire how you show up. When I started taking this seriously in my own life, the changes weren't dramatic at first. It wasn't like a lightning bolt or a sudden windfall, though interesting things did start happening financially within weeks, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But the first thing I noticed was simpler than that. I noticed I stopped dreading my inbox. I stopped tensing up when my phone rang. I started bringing a different energy to conversations, and people responded to that energy differently. Opportunity isn't always hiding in some distant, miraculous event. A lot of the time, it's been sitting in your existing network, your existing skills, your existing circumstances, just waiting for you to show up with enough belief to actually reach for it. I want to ask you something a little more personal. What would your life look like if money genuinely wasn't the constraint? Not if you were obscenely wealthy, just if you had enough that the low hum of financial anxiety was just gone. What would you do differently? Take a second, actually think about it. Would you take the trip, start the business, go back to school, give more, worry less about your parents, sleep better, be more present with your kids? Here's what I've noticed. When most people answer that question, they're not describing a life of luxury. They're describing a life of freedom, of presence, of being able to make decisions based on what actually matters to them instead of what they can afford. And I think that vision, that specific personal vision you just pictured, is important. Not just as motivation, but as a target. Because what you're moving toward matters as much as what you're moving away from. There's a version of financial breakthrough that's just about escaping. And escaping is a fine starting point. But the people I've seen make lasting change are the ones who got clear on what they were running toward, the life they were building, the person they were becoming. So I want to encourage you to write that down somewhere. Not in a formal goal-setting way if that's not your thing. Just a few sentences. What does the other side look like? What does a Tuesday feel like when the money problem is solved? Because here's the thing about declaring something in prayer, in intention, in faith. You need to know what you're actually declaring. Vague hope produces vague results. Specific vision, held with genuine belief, is something else entirely. So where do we go from here? Because I don't want this to be a video you watch and feel good about for 20 minutes and then forget. I want this to actually move something in your life. Here's what I'd suggest. First, do the declaration again, not just once. Do it every morning for the next 7 days. Say it out loud. Don't mumble it. Don't rush it. Speak it like you mean it, because the version of you that means it is the version that creates results. Second, pay attention to what shifts in the next 72 hours. Not looking for a miracle necessarily, looking for the small things, the idea that pops up, the person who reaches out, the opportunity that presents itself in that the old you would have talked yourself out of. Notice those things. Write them down. Because when you start tracking evidence that things are shifting, your belief grows. And when your belief grows, you make bolder moves. And bolder moves produce real results. Third, share this with one person. Not because I need the views, but because there's something about saying out loud to another human being, hey, I'm doing this, I'm believing for this, that creates accountability in the best possible way. It makes it real. It takes it from private hope to stated intention. In fourth, drop a comment right now. Tell me, what's the one financial area of your life that you're believing is about to change? Your career, a business, getting out of debt, an unexpected opportunity? Say it out loud in the comments because your words have weight and this is a good place to use them. I want to take you back to where we started. I asked you at the beginning, think about the last time something genuinely surprised you in the best possible way. And I asked what you were doing right before it happened. Here's my honest answer from my own life. I was usually in a moment of surrender, of openness, of having gotten tired enough of fighting everything that I finally just let something in. This video was a moment like that for you, whether you realize it yet or not. You found this today out of everything on the internet, out of everything competing for your attention. Something brought you here to this specific conversation on this specific day. I don't think that's random. I think the moment you found this was the exact moment it started working. The only question now is whether you're going to let it. I'll see you in the next one, and I genuinely cannot wait to hear what happens next for you.